Hello and welcome back to the Cinch YouTube channel, where today I'm driving a car I've been very excited to get behind the wheel of for some time now. That is a new Peugeot E208 updated for 2024, and it promises to be more powerful, have more range, and in this shade, much brighter than the E208 we've been running around at Rockingham with a load of celebrities. So I'm out here on the country roads surrounding Barcelona to see if the improvements make it more fun. Yes, Peugeot has revamped one of the best electric hatchbacks money can buy with a battery that's 2% bigger at 51 kilowatt hours and an electric motor that produces 20 horsepower more with a new peak of 156 HP. But rather than enhancing performance, these changes are there to grow the car's range to a claimed 257 miles, 30 more than before, and enough to positively embarrass the likes of Honda's E and even just beat the 2024 Mini Electric, which isn't due on roads until next spring. Now, before we hit the road, it is definitely worth talking about the design tweaks to this E208 because I think it looks fantastic. Dare I say it, it is the best looking hatchback out there right now. I love the tweaks they've made. And oh yeah, by the way, you might have noticed this color looks very much like the color on the Abarth 500e, that bright luminous yellow. I'm pretty sure it's the same shade of paint exactly. And of course, these guys come from the same parent group as Abarth. But this E208 looks very different in terms of details, not least because you've got very Peugeot features up front. You've got these 3 LED strips down here, which are now sharper and cleaner, and I think they look really, really good. Same goes for the 3-part headlight design there. Same basic shape, but seems to be darker inside, and then you've got these kind of crystal-like sections for the actual lighting. I really like it. And then on the front here, I love that they got the black badge on the nose, and I think the new Peugeot logo looks excellent. Wears its grille nicely as well. Of course, there's no actual cooling or radiator here because this, of course, doesn't have an engine, but these slats do add a bit of colour and fun to the front. And then if we come around the side, of course, it's very much the same here, but with this bright colour, I think the black looks excellent now. It really, really highlights the contrast, especially with a little bit of tint on the rear windows. Wheels are nice as well. Peugeot's really smashing wheel design at the moment. They've gone quite unconventional, and I approve. And around the back, yeah, okay, there are probably fewer tweaks on this side than there are on the front, but I think they're key tweaks. These taillights here, when they're on, they look really cool. They've got these really sharp, quite futuristic slats, and they are harking, albeit on a horizontal plane rather than a vertical plane, back to Peugeot's Le Mans racing car, which has the 3-claw design on its tail. I very much like the Peugeot lettering here on the black. I think it just looks really great. Best looking car by far in this category. Message me or post on this video if you disagree. Now inside, it's a very similar affair to the earlier car, to the pre-update car. Of course, our race car, our track car, doesn't have these lovely seats with the contrasting colours. We've got bucket seats and harnesses. This thing is obviously a standard vehicle, but there are a lot of familiar features, not least lots of bits of this carbon style finish. And also now you've got this new gear selector down here, which is much smaller, much tidier, a little bit fiddly, but actually it does clear up a lot of space down here. And there's a nice bit of carbon there to rest your hand on while you use it. But the key things to note are you've still got a nice little steering wheel, which goes very well with this small car. You've got a digital instrument cluster up head, which is slightly 3D. And if I lower the camera under here, you'll see how they do it. Look how cool that is. It's a reflection effectively for the top layer, and then the layer behind is the screen behind the glass there. So that gives you your 3D effect there, which you should just be able to see hopefully there. Then we've got our instrument cluster here, or the infotainment screen here, but now it has Apple CarPlay wirelessly, which is very handy indeed, which is exactly why nothing is plugged into this wire down here, and my phone can live on the wireless charging pad in there. So it's obviously not working right now, but it does work. I think I mispositioned my phone there, and as you can see, Apple CarPlay is working fine, which is really good. So that's a nice handy addition. And then elsewhere, it's much the same, which is to say nice. You've got fast reacting systems up here. I mean, the graphics are lovely and sharp, but you've got your shortcuts down here, which is good to know. You have got some buttons down here, which are quite handy, or you can simply get to the systems here. So it's actually a pretty easy to use infotainment system with digital controls and then some shortcuts. And then elsewhere in the cabin, it feels nice and premium. I mean, it ought to, because this car's price, obviously being electric, means it is up there into the 30s quite quickly, but I have to say it's a nice place to sit. As for the back, well, again, nothing has changed, so that means I'm pretty snug, but this is a relatively small car. Although you can see, even with the seat set how I like it, I can get my knees in comfortably, and my feet do handily tuck under the seat ahead, so I'm not cramped at all, although I can't exactly stretch my legs out. But I mean, this isn't a big car. It's 5 doors though, so it's easy to climb in, and you are given some creature comforts here. The seats again are lovely, nice part leather finish in this car. And then if you look down here, you'll see we've got a couple of USB ports Then if you look at the seats themselves, they're actually split into two parts. So the middle seat is joined to the seat I'm sat on, and then that seat over there is separate. So I'm gonna check out how the middle seat is. Is that pulling the short straw? I have a feeling it might be. Yep, my head is touching the car ceiling, and not surprisingly, because I'm sat a bit higher, it is definitely a bit cramped. So this is definitely a 4-seater car that's pretty comfortable, but the 5th seat is definitely a bit small. And also, despite being electric, because you can get the 208 in non-electric form, the platform isn't optimized for electric, so there is a small tunnel in the middle between my feet here. So yeah, it's definitely not a 5-seater you want to be in for long journeys, but as a 4-seater, yeah, it's a good, comfortable car. And when it comes to the boot, well, yeah, nothing has changed in here, and that's not a bad thing. It's a respectable size boot. As you can see, my stay-over bag and my rucksack are here, but if I lift this up, you will see that there is a bag for the charge cables, which is a little bit annoying. It takes up some room, and of course, because this is a battery car, there's not exactly much space under here, so you've only got enough for, what's that? That's your tyre repair kit and your jack. So yeah, it's a respectable size boot, no underfloor storage, but I don't think anyone looking at a car this small is going to be too shocked to see what is behind the boot lid, although it is a little bit annoying. You can't hide them under the floor. A small gripe. All right, so I'm very much sold on the design, and I still love the interior, and I love that shade of luminous color, but what's it like to drive? Let's find out. Before we do that though, don't forget, if you're enjoying this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and when you're searching for your next car, make sure you check out cinch.co.uk or download our app. Oh, it's good to be hammering down a country road just outside of Barcelona in a platform I know very well. This electric E208, yeah, okay, it doesn't make noises and it doesn't want to lift off oversteer like, for example, a Ford Fiesta ST, but it does do handling very well. And now we know the platform really well from our track car, but even in standard form, even with the full interior in place, this thing goes around bends as keenly as any other hatchback this side of, say, for example, an i20N or a Fiesta ST. It is a proper warm hatch, and it really does get down a country road with enthusiasm. Now, the way it does that is by being so composed through the bends. I mean, it's got Primacy tyres on, and glorious sunshine out here today. The tarmac, of course, is nice and warm, but there's still loads of grip, but not too much grip. It doesn't feel overly gripped like some cars can do. And so what that means is the car's got really good neutral balance. If I tip it into this bend here with a bit of speed, the front end grips well, and actually if I come off the accelerator, I can just, to a tiny degree, feel the rear tyres just letting go a little bit as the weight transfer pushes the weight forward. So the car is very predictable, a little bit playful, a tiny little bit playful, and actually really confidence inspiring. Now, there's not really anything in the way of steering feel, so if you're talking about a warm hatch that has communication, yeah, this doesn't have really anything in that. Although, under power, I have noticed, and especially with this new electric motor fitted to this updated car, if I tip it into this bend here and then get on the power mid-corner, I can feel it's kind of scrambling for grip. It's a really satisfying feeling because, at least on this surface, it does find the grip, but there is a small amount of vibration through the steering wheel. I wouldn't say it's much in the way of feel, but it certainly makes the car feel more alive, and it gives it a bit of character. It's sort of scrabbling for grip as it's trying to come out of the corners, and while it doesn't pull you into the bend like a car with a limited slip differential would, where it's juggling its power a little bit better, you just get the sensation that this thing just wants to scurry out of the corners. It feels really quite, I guess, squirrel-like on a corner exit. Then, of course, because this is an EV and a proper EV, it means it's got regenerative technology going on. So if you click the B button on the new drive selector, then the car does help you to slow down. So actually, you're not on and off the brakes as much as you would think. So the brakes don't really get hot. I've been charging up and down this mountain route now, and I haven't noticed anything in the way of brake fade, nothing in the way of smell from the brakes, and it's a warm day out here in Spain today. And same goes actually for the tyres. They're really consistent. I must say, Primacies, I have been a fan of Primacies for a long time now. I mean, I think I ran a Subaru BRZ on them, and they were always described as the eco tyre, but they really stand up to punishment. You know, while the grip levels aren't that high, they're very consistent, and I assume that's just because they're a very hard tyre. And on this car, it means that while yeah, okay, the grip levels aren't crazy. They're very predictable and very easy to read, and you just know exactly where the car is going to be as you go into a corner. So yeah, this car does genuinely feel fun to drive. And all right, yeah, I would love to have a raughty little 3-cylinder with a 6-speed manual next to me, and yeah, okay, it would be nice to have a little bit more adjustability from the rear, maybe just a little bit more playfulness off power. But this is an EV. I mean, it's focused on the city. Yeah, of course, the focus is going to be elsewhere. But handily, because this car is so small, and because you've got a sharp reversing camera, and because the visibility is so good, driving it through town is also a doddle, and dare I say it, quite enjoyable because of that. And now, of course, with the extended range from that slightly larger battery, it does give you extra peace of mind. This is now a very small car that shames other small cars. I mean, think of the Honda E. Those cars have comparably tiny ranges, and this thing is up there with the mid-size electric cars, despite being a little bit smaller. So this is an electric car that can hammer down a country road and put a big grin on your face. It can also, when you modify it a bit like we did with our older one, just about withstand track work. But most importantly, it can live in the city and offer a really good amount of range. Electric car buyers in the city, if you're focused on your urban commutes and just driving to the shops and to your friends and stuff like that, and not getting on the motorway that much, I mean, dare I say, you might not need to charge one of these more than a couple of times a month. Honestly, it's really getting to a point where you can see electric car usability for all, even the naysayers. All right, yeah, there is one tiny gripe which survives from the earlier E208, and that is, of course, the fact that the instrument cluster is slightly obstructed, the view of it anyway, is slightly obstructed by this steering wheel. Yeah, it's got a flat top to help see over the top of it clearer, but if I want the steering wheel where I want it, I have it up in a position where the top of the steering wheel is directly in the middle of the instrument cluster, so I can't see it. So I have to run with the wheel a bit lower. Now, that's not going to be a problem for 99% of buyers, and I can say that actually I'm probably a bit unusual in the fact that I like my seating position to be low and my steering wheel a little bit higher, like I'm in a sports car, even when I'm not driving a sports car, because I just feel like I'm more in touch with the car in that setting. So I understand that I'm probably not the common person in this car when it comes to that, but it is a little bit frustrating that it's still blocked, even with this update. I was hoping there might have been a way they might have been able to lift the instrument cluster a little bit more, but I suppose that probably would have compromised your view of the road. A minor gripe. I still love this thing.
All right, so there you have it. That's our first go in the newly updated Peugeot E208, which, while not totally perfect, definitely has me won over for much more than just those excellent looks. But what do you think? Is this small EV the one to go for? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. See you soon.